Tigers defeat the Raiders 48-24, and wow. Who saw that coming? Not me, that's for sure. You?
Not really, to be honest. Not that comprehensively. So it was a pleasant surprise. It actually could have been a lot more. There's a couple of tries denied. There was one or two really close kind of held-ups. I said it to Timmy at halftime. I was like, we probably should have 3 or 4 more on the board here. It's got all the marks. We'd lost 10 in a row at Campbelltown. We hadn't beaten the Raiders in ages as well. But thankfully, they were able to keep coming and got the right result.
The story of the game for me, Adam Doueihi returns. Yep. 14 months off, 3 ACLs later. He had a try assist, 14 runs, 212 metres, 40 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, an offload, 8 tackles, only 2 misses, and no errors. Look, it is only one game, but I do think there is something to be said about a very dominant voice. Is he necessarily compared to other teams? Would he be considered a senior player? No, I don't think he would be. But compared to what the Tigers have right now with all the injuries that you've got, because that's the crazy thing is that Tigers are smashed with injury right now.
Yeah.
And the Raiders are, outside of obviously Fogarty, relatively good. And so the story for the importance of having a senior player that is very, very vocal on the field, I think that he might be just what they need to keep these younger players honest on the field, because they were playing with way more energy than they have all season long, especially the young forwards that were coming on. They were, it wasn't just I'm just going to do my job, and if there's an inside chase I need to make, I'll clock off here. Everything was at a high energy, and I think Adam Doueihi might have had something to do with that.
Isn't it crazy with Adam Doueihi? He was the dominant voice and the leader in this side 2 years ago to me. He was 23 then. He's 25 now.
Still young as.
It's crazy. And I personally think, mate, I've always said it, I don't think he's a ball player. I don't think he's a 5'8".
He's a centre.
Centre is his spot, and he can make a real home of it here.
Yeah. I know he wants to be in the halves, and he's just being honest, and you want competitors to be honest, and, if they want to be in that, you'd rather them be that open about it than be real meek about it. But I think he actually, in today's game, with, his decent ball-playing ability, I think he can make a great centre. And also, almost a bit of a roaming centre at some stages. To get in there and link up and be a bit of a link man at times. I think that in today's game, with how much you can actually move around, especially as an outside back, he can become one of the better... Well, I don't know if he'd become in the top tier of centres, but put it this way, he can become invaluable to this team where he may not, points may not be as much around him as they would if he was number 6, but he can still be an integral part where when he's not there, you can really feel the difference. There's a lot you can do from centre, especially in a team that doesn't necessarily have other superstars that take up all the slack. For example, it's not like Buller is a Teddy or an Edwards or a Latrell. Buller is also a rookie, so you can go in and take some of those runs on if you want to. I think he's an out-and-out centre, and even when he made that break, I was actually quite surprised at how quick he was. I thought that we would see, because of the injuries, that he would actually struggle, but he looked quick, he looked explosive, he looked good in contact. He was great.
Yeah, I think he's, in this current Tigers team, I think he's an out-and-out. I think his best position is centre. Moving forward, maybe it is his best position, but I'm not willing to put a line through him being a really top quality number 6 in the NRL either. I do think it needs to be with the right halfback. I think it needs to be with a traditional, really good organising number 7 with a good kicking game where he can focus on swinging both sides and running the ball and being that type of 5'8". You don't want him organising and having to worry about getting a team around the park. But at the Tigers right now, who have Luai coming, Galvin's a star, Latu Fainu in the ranks, Caesar at 7 at the moment, you don't need him to play halves. They've been so weak defensively as well on the edges for a few years now. He's exactly what they need at centre. Yep. Moving forward, though, I'm not so convinced he can't go back to 5'8".
Yeah, I disagree. I think he's an out-and-out centre. I think he's made for it. I watched him play quite a lot. And look, granted, he was playing 6 on halves in a team that was just busted.
And he killed it.
And but there were, I just see him as a centre. I think he's a centre. I think he can make a solid 6 in the NRL. I think that he can make himself, I don't know about a top tier quality, and I'm probably going to eat my words like I did with friggin' Herbie Farnworth, but he can be super, super crucial to his side, and he can be one of those players that you build clubs around players like Adam Doueihi. You build clubs around him. And who knows, you know what? As I said, I've been wrong before. Maybe he can be a top-tier centre.
Well, if he lands at left centre next year outside Jerome Luai, it hasn't been a bad spot in the past for centres.
Especially when
he played left centre yesterday, right?
Yep.
He's played most of his career down the right, yeah? When he's been playing 5'8". Yeah,
Certainly in recent years.
in recent years, yeah. I thought it was interesting to see him pop up on the left.
Adam Doueihi in 2021 was his last season where he played a lot of games. Played 20 games in the halves. He scored 9 tries and had 17 try assists in an ordinary Tigers outfit. That's pretty good going.
It's good going, but I just remember vividly that when he's in at 6, he can't help himself but be the ball is always in his hands. And I just think that he's too dominant for what they've got right now, the Tigers. And I just don't know if he's got enough runs on the board to go to another club and be the key man with a really, like, for example, let's say you take Dearden out and you put him with a guy like Townsend, who is a really structured 7. I just don't know if he's got the next level in him like Dearden does to be the attacking weapon at 6. I like him at centre.
I think he's an out-and-out centre. I get that where you come from with those stats, mate, but when he was playing 5'8", I thought everything was very premeditated, and I'd be very interested in how many of those stats are against the good sides.
And I just remember watching that going, like, he has a red-hot crack, and I love watching him play. He's one of those guys you love watching play, but it was just almost like, it's hard to compare, but like Tedesco at times, where you'd be like, mate, just take a step back and fit a little bit into the structure. In saying that, as I said earlier, that could have been because the Tigers were terrible, and he was just needing to do that because no one else was getting in the friggin' system. So I'm not saying it was his fault. I just think that he's got everything you need to be a bloody good centre.
His halfback, his halves partner at the time, Luke Brooks, who we literally just said is an out 5'8" who shouldn't be running a team. So maybe
that could have been it. That could have been it.
Yeah.
And as I said, just like the Herbie Farnworth situation, I'm happy to be wrong because I love Doueihi as a player and he's a legend of a bloke. But I just think as a centre, he's big, he's explosive, he's got a great tip on. He doesn't have to worry about any of that other stuff. Doesn't have to worry about his kicking game. Wasn't the best kicking game either. He can just go, I need to run hard, tackle hard, and just put points on the board. But I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I think Benji's made the right decision.
Put him at centre.
Yep, I agree. Jeez, he's quick too.
Well, I think in Timmy's defence, he's saying for the Tigers he's a centre. He's saying
definitely wouldn't have him in the halves at the Tigers.
He's
right
saying
now.
at another club, maybe he could be a 6. Which, look, as I said, way crazier things have happened, and I've been wrong before, so could be wrong about that. But yeah, anyway, all that aside, Adam Doueihi, watching him stride out like that, I know fans have been really good at rapping, and being happy for Adam Doueihi, but man, until you've been in a NRL system and seen what injuries can do to your mental health, and especially a guy like Adam Doueihi, who has been at a club that has struggled so long and been the one thing I'm sure all Tigers fans agree on, through the darkest periods, he was the one that was always having a crack.
Yep, 100%, always having a crack. Gave us a little bit of excitement. Some great, numbers that you just had there as well, Timmy. In a team that was not doing much, he always found a way to kind of get a few points on the board, and just seems like one of the good guys. He's extended as well, so he's going to hang around for the next little while too.
Has he really?
Yeah.
He's just 1 year.
Yep.
Okay.
Which suggests to me that he's backing himself to go play mad and get a big contract.
And do
else.
so at centre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing as well. Like, credit to him because you're right. Like years ago, the entire side was built around him.
Yeah.
The entire thing, and now he's had to take a backward step to a heap of young guys and play centre. And I'm confident he's going to do well there in the next.
I think
year
he will
so.
too. And I
Didn't he
think
signed to be a fullback from memory?
signed from the Rabbitohs, and I think they tried him at fullback, and he just didn't have the legs for it, if I recall correctly. I remember speaking to him about it. What I do know is his preferred position is 6.
Yeah.
And look, he could be like a Jack Whiten, where like he's always
very
in
Jack Whiten.
Yeah, like he's always in this weird like plays really well at centre, but a specific team could really suit him at 6.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Bunnies right now. Like he's perfect for them at 6 right now, Jackie Whiten. He's exactly what they need.
His first year at the Tigers, he was fullback basically the whole year, and then the next year he switched between 5'8" and centre.
Yeah. But yeah, this was the Doueihi show for me. That runaway where he puts the hand up. What an incredible moment. The grit, the determination. You're off contract, 3rd ACL. You battle all the way back. And I tell you what, for him to be in that good a nick, his first game back in NRL, and obviously he played one game in New South Wales Cup before, just shows you how dedicated he was to his rehab, to him getting... Because to get that kind of match fitness in your second game back in in footy, but first NRL game back in 14 months, you have had to have put yourself through absolute hell in the rehab room. So a massive congratulations to Doueihi.
Just had a look at that season 2 that he had the 9 tries. And, obviously the try assist, that's a very good whack, obviously, no doubt about it. But he played 20 games, scored 9 tries, scored 5 of them in the 6 games he played centre as well. Worth noting.
Noted, Roo. Noted. Okay. Other guys have played really well. I know he doesn't have the stats, but I thought, just some of the runs that Stefano had, there was intent. I want to make an impact. So I like that from Stefano. He didn't have the same stats as last week, but just it looks like he's taken on a lot of responsibility.
What about, who was it that he trampled and then...
Chris, and then grabbed him, pulled him down with him.
Pulled him along for the ride.
Jesus. Far out. I didn't agree to this. So I like that. I like that aggression from him. I like him taking on the role of being the dominant in that pack. 2 guys, though, Api Koroisau and Galvin. Lachlan Galvin, to come back and play like that after all the noise, he has the rest with his hand. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see him, shy away from the big moments or even shy away from the way he was playing. And it would have been understandable. We're talking about an 18-year-old kid who's just had his first experience of getting smashed in the papers, rightly or wrongly, whether you agree or disagree. Doesn't change the fact that he got smashed in the papers and he comes out and puts a performance on like that. What do you reckon?
And the great thing about it was as well, we're pretty famous at not starting very well or coming out of half time very well. And he scored the first try of the game and he finished off that amazing play just about off the kickoff in the second half as well. He's so good. Me and Timmy both sat at each other and looked at each other a few times yesterday. He's just a freak and he was so good yesterday. He was in just about everything. Kicky game, everything as well was pretty good. I think he's just so good, and it's great that he's said he's going to stay for the next couple of years as well.
Just watching him yesterday, he just looked so comfortable. Granted, the entire game went the Tigers' way, but at no point did he look even slightly overwhelmed. He looked so right at home for an 18-year-old Campbelltown boy playing back in Seatown, and he was so impressive, wasn't he? And that try to start the second half in their first set, you're coming out and you're going, all right, Tigers love getting out to a lead, can fold, when the pressure gets put on them. To come out and they just went wide with structure, a lot like we say Manly often do. They went wide and they used the ball out of nowhere, but it was very structured. They had line runners and they just skinned us. That try was remarkable, and they just put us straight back on the back foot. We would have had a massive rev up from Ricky at half time, and they just went, nah.
Just deflated you.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what you saw yesterday, you saw the first half against the Dragons, where they do spin it early, and they just go, but they made sure that they were safe passes, because even in that try, there was no pass outside of when they got to the pointy end of the pole play, but there was no early pass that was really risky. It was just really... And so I know that Benji Marshall got some criticism because he was saying, boys, I want you to spin it, but also I want you to play discipline. You can do both. You can spin it in it. Actually, the Melbourne Storm do it quite a lot. They'll go pass and shift onto an edge early in the set and then just stay down that channel. You can do it. It's just about when you decide to pass it. Are you going deep into the line and tipping on, or are you going early pass, and then just because it's early in the tackle set, the defence hasn't rushed up, and you just take the space that's in front of you. And that's what I liked about the Tigers. They did it. They did spread it and they threw it around, but they did it in a disciplined way.
There's a couple of plays from him. Obviously, the first try he scored, I just loved that after that half break. A lot of young halves would try and count numbers and look up. Galvin just went, give me the ball, just let me run. And you know what I love too? We've been not critical of him, but we've questioned before, even when it came to Origin, with Api, how sometimes he can screw around with the ball to play the ball. He obviously demanded that ball that Api just went, I don't have to overthink anything here. Just get this kid the ball and let him go. And the kick that he put in for Api, it was like time froze. Yeah. He had so much time.
Well, what do you say about all the great players? They look like they have time.
Everyone just froze on the field around him in that moment.
Yeah. So good. I want to give some of the younger fellas a shout out for the Tigers because I thought they were phenomenal. So I think the winger, Luke Laulili.
Yep.
Just the confidence to basically look up, scoot from dummy half, and just go, you know what? I'm just going to... a lot of rookies would have said, stuff that. I'm passing this ball. I don't want to be the one that gets caught. We've just made a break. if I don't score this try, I'm getting absolutely annihilated. He just said, nut, boom, scoot, and just scored. And I think that hopefully Benji can continue to instill this confidence in these young fellas to take the moments when they come. Because I think the biggest issue with the Tigers for the last few years is almost like they're scarred and they don't know how to win and take moments because they're so used to the moments not working for them.
Yep. Well, he's not one of those guys who doesn't know much about winning because he's come through that same side that Lachlan Galvin came through that went undefeated a couple of years ago. I think we spoke about him, actually, Luke Laulili, in the season preview show as a potential CBA.
Okay.
There's a few raps on him as like a little bit of a Brian To'o-style winger, real hard runner.
Yep.
And we saw a little bit of that yesterday when he did score that try. But he's definitely one to watch. He showed some great signs yesterday, I think, for the future.
This is a good time to bring up. So I saw this tweet from Tigercast. 10 of the 18 players from yesterday's side came from the Tigers' pathways, and 7 of them are 22 years and younger.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I was about
pretty
to
good
say
signs.
the West side that won the Harold Matts in 2022 is not that long ago. Than the starting 13, 6 of them have already played first grade.
Wow.
That's great for the Tigers.
Yeah.
That's a great sign. Like, yeah, okay, you're probably not going to make the 8 this year, but the more runs you get on the ball with this playing group, like, you just don't know what could happen. You really don't.
I think I saw a stat yesterday too that he's the youngest player to play for the West Tigers since Chris Lawrence in 05.
No way. The great Chris Lawrence. Mate, remember when he burst onto the scene? Unbelievable.
He got 3 or 4 on debut, wasn't it?
Well, he almost made his debut in the 05 grand final.
And didn't he made like Australia or Origin in his first or second year or something?
Debuted while at school
Yeah, wow.
at Greg's.
So I just want to run this. This is how impressive this win was. So the back line for the Raiders is Rapana, Kotrick, Tomoko, Chris, Savage against Laulili, Doueihi, Naden, Fatape, and Buller. Like, I reckon on paper the Raiders is probably a better back line. Mm-hmm. Then you get into the halves. You know, Strange and Galvin. Like, I reckon Galvin's had just a little bit of a better year, but Strange has been pretty bloody good. So let's just say Galvin just a little bit. Caesar versus Weeks, obviously Caesar has a better resume. You get into the forwards though. Papali'i versus Utu Ikamanu. You know, like Papali'i is still one of the best forwards in the competition. You got Koroisau versus Wolford, obviously Koroisau. Then you got Bole versus Tapine. Like, you know, Bole is a rookie, not even close to Tapine yet. Hudson Young versus Porter. You know, Porter is, like, he's been around for quite a while. Has only debuted, I think, last week or was this week. So, you know, first getting in. Elliot Whitehead versus Fainu. You know, most people would pick Whitehead first, even though Fainu's been a good rookie. Mm-hmm. And then you got Smithies versus Matamua. So you'd pick Smithies. So, like, you go through this on paper, there's only probably 3 or 4 Tigers players that you would go out and out on paper is a better player. And yet this is what the Tigers managed to do to the Raiders. Now, it's probably a mixture of the Raiders playing poorly, but also the Tigers doing well. So I think it's probably not going to get the appreciation it deserves, but it's a bloody big win for the club. It's a bloody big win for the club.
Absolutely. Just want to give Api Koroisau a rap as well. He obviously scored that try off the kick. Had one taken off him, the flick pass from Fainu. So he was always near enough to the play. But just that one where Rapana got hit, dropped the ball, Api picked it up, and without even looking through a flick pass back the other way, I think it might have been, was it Buller who...
But it was Buller, but the two of them made the tackle before. So Buller as well made the tackle, got back up and put himself in a position to get that. It all happened in a split second. It was incredible.
I was saying to Timmy at the time, is there a player in the comp that can sum things up as quickly as what's in front of him as Koroisau? I would say probably not.
Mate, he is just like... the way he's... Like, Cody Walker is really good on the edges of, like, just picking things apart and spacing and timing. But Koroisau... It's in these, like, tight areas, like in the ruck, where he will just make these, like, immediate, as you just said, like, immediate decisions, and they're always the right, or at least 9 times out of 10, they're the right decision. Like, he's an absolute treat to watch. And I know we've always said that he'd be hard to play with as a 9 because he's so crafty around the ruck. I think with more time, they'll find the balance. The balance will come.
Well, you can even just see the forward pack. They're starting to get him now.
They're starting to understand. And with him and Luai together... I'm excited. I'm excited for next year, much more than I was maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, because not only have Tigers obviously improved, but Luai has shown that he can be a 7. Like, I don't have... Look, when someone said that he was signed as a 7, I was like, I just probably don't agree with it. I just don't think that he can be a 7. Now I'm like, no, I agree with it. I think it's the right call. I'll tell you what, his name's come up a few times throughout this chat, but Samuel Fainu, mate, Stephen Crichton would be my buy of the year.
this kid will go close to second or third, I reckon. He's incredible.
He's devastating, isn't he? Talk about blokes, he could have had another, at least one more try assist. It might have been two that were like a whisker. He threw one for Doueihi. I think it was Rapana, like miraculously held him up. Fainu was an absolute handful, like he's every week, but he was devastating. He runs a great line, strong as an ox. He's a good footballer.
And if I'm the Tigers watching Isaiah Papali'i go to Penrith, I'm going, okay, we've got a kid that can come in and replace him immediately. That's probably Vicky they can spend somewhere else.
Probably part of the reason they did do that, because Papali'i is on a massive wicket, and they've said, look, mate, you can look elsewhere. They've got Fainu coming through. I tell you what, tell me another rookie edge back rower that comes in and rips and tears like he's a grown man already, the way Fainu has. Like, forwards don't usually do that. You know, I understand we've got our exceptions with your Tinos, with your Payne Hasses, but on the edge, like we just finished speaking about how Tallis Duncan, I know Tallis Duncan's more of a middle forward, but you know, even him struggling to get time, Fainu, he's not only done his job on the edge, he's impacting games on the edge.
He's 20.
20 years old. Mate, if I'm Tigers, I'm locking him up.
And
do not let him.
Is Isaiah Papali'i, is he back this year or is he...
I think it's about round 22 or something.
Yeah.
I think I'd be putting him in the middle and giving Fainu as much time as I can on the edge.
Well, so you've got the other edge, you've got Porter. So Bateman was playing 13.
I like Papa, Edge, Bateman, Lock.
Yeah, I reckon you put Bateman at 13. And you go... You know what else I really like? I know he missed a few tackles, but I like Bole through the middle with his explosive footwork. I think that the speed of play the ball with guys like Bole and Stefano, I know I was speaking about it quite a lot, so Tigers fans probably get frustrated, but I just don't think you need Stefano and Clemmer on at the same time. I just think they're too big. Mm-hmm. You need guys like Bole to partner him, or Alex Twal, whichever one, that are just a bit more mobile. And I think Bole might be the perfect fit for it, because I know they tried him at 13 for a period there, but I just don't know whether I know not every 13's a link man or whatever, but sometimes even players get caught up with the 13 on their back. If you say to Bole, look, the 10's on the back of your shirt, like all I need you to do is run hard and straight for 20-minute stints, just simplify it, and I think he can do a job. And I just think Stefano and Clemmer are too similar and big to have on at the same time. So you either put Clemmer on the bench and you bring him on for a bit of impact, or you put Stefano, but I don't think you should start with either one. Not to suggest... Like, Clemmer does his job and he does it well each week, but it's more just a style with the way the game is being played at the moment.
They've got Fainu till 27.
27, and it would be unders too. Holy. Exciting
Raiders
time.
last week, Roosters this week, mate. How you feeling?
Good. Bring it on, Hainsey in the chook pen. You're going down.
Okay, on to the Raiders. Okay, so the Raiders, obviously, extremely disappointing afternoon. We went through their roster. That is not a roster that should be losing like that to the Tigers. They now sit 10th, but that is equal points to 5th. No, sorry, to 6th. So they're essentially still within the 8 striking distance. So there's not too much panic there. My big concern is I feel like they might be running out of puff. I feel like that maybe they not necessarily peaked too early, but they may have put a lot of emphasis in dominating the start of the season and doing really well. And I'm a bit concerned that their ability to... It's really hard once you lose momentum to wrangle it back in your favour in a season. And they just look to me like nowhere near the same energy as they had maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago. As I said, I'm a bit worried about their energy levels to a degree, or just their impact that they used to have in the forward where they used to dominate. The fact that they got dominated by a pack that is nowhere near like as good as them on paper is a bit concerning. I understand they made heaps of errors, but I just don't think they've been anywhere near the same side as they were in the first, say, 8 rounds or so. Timmy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're sort of starting to regress to where I thought they might have been earlier in the year. And as you said, they came out of the blocks and exploded and justified all the critics and all the negativity that was spoken about around them. But honestly, in this game, I just thought they lacked class. Like, it was a game that, if we're serious about being a top 8 side, we couldn't afford to win. And I don't mean to take anything away from the Tigers because they were outstanding in this game, but we look second tier compared to them. Like, we completed at 75%, not the best, but not the worst. We won the penalty count 7-2. We missed less tackles than them. All of this, and essentially we scored 1 try, a Danny Levi barge over from dummy half, and then 3 tries where we just went nuts chasing points that all came when there was a man in the bin. So we didn't really look like scoring points outside of that. And unfortunately 2 weeks in a row where I thought the Raiders had have on paper the dominant forward pack against the Cowboys as well, and we were belted in both of them off the park. And hard to make any excuses for it. I just think we're lacking the class in the roster, and I think it comes back to what I've said all year: the spine. I just don't think we have enough points in us.
I cut Ricky Stewart a lot of slack in regards to, obviously you started off really well, but I do think there is a genuine plan of this next batch of players where he is really eyeing Saunders coming in, Chevy Stewart coming in, and I think that at the moment, look, I know Ricky Stewart would never publicly say, look, this is more of a gap year where I'm just trying to get through it. Me personally, though, if I'm looking at that roster, I see this year for the Raiders as a gap year. I see as them going, look, we're going to cop a bit of pain for this year, and we're going to go all the way in our younger roster, and it's going to be actually, your 2026 and 7 is when we're trying to aim to strike. Because otherwise, it just doesn't really make sense to not have an out-and-out 7 in your roster to back up Fogarty.
Mate, we're absolutely in a transition period, and year one of it, because... moving forward, our spine's going to look something probably like Chevy Stewart. You'll have Jamal at 7. You might have Saunders in the halves. Saunders or Sanders? I keep getting that confused.
Sanders
in the I keep getting it wrong.
Yeah,
Colonel.
Colonel Sanders. Sanders in the halves. You probably have Strange at centre, everyone fit and good to go. We are building. Whitehead's leaving at the end of the year. Kotrick might be leaving at the end of the year by the sounds of it. Papali'i, back end of his career. Rapana, back end of his career. So... you have to sit back and remember that. We are transitioning, but because of how good of the footy we played earlier in the year, we were okay, but we were getting results. You sort of have that belief of, well, are we, or are we still finals contenders? We are transitioning.
I will say, I think he's a battler. I think he works his ass off. Morgan Smithy's at 13 for me. I just don't know if he offers enough in attack to justify big minutes.
I had the exact same thing, Kempy.
I love him, but it's just got to be honest.
I love him because he's a battler and he gets every bit out of his talent that he can, but he doesn't add any punch to the line or the go forward. Not that being a middle forward is all about offloads and tackle breaks, but 14 games this year, he's busted 8 tackles. He's had 3 offloads. I'm guessing he hasn't scored a try, and I'm guessing he probably hasn't had a try assist. I've got his stats. He hasn't. He's great for clean-up work. He hits hard in D, but he offers so little in attack, unfortunately.
I think you missed Big Red.
Big Red, I know he played in this World Cup last week, but he needs to come back in and start at lock for us. And then you look at Smithies and go, what's he going to offer coming off the bench?
Yeah, it's tough because he's worked his ass off and he doesn't play poorly.
Never.
Because you find an edge. I know you've got Hosking that could potentially play there, but it just puts him in a bit of a tough spot because Corey Horsburgh, in my opinion, offers what he does in defence, but also has that edge in attack.
Yeah, so Corey, he played last week and killed it in New South Wales Cup. By the looks of it, he didn't play Cup on the weekend. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm just not sure where you put him. What do you reckon?
Also, this and I don't disagree with you on Smithies, but the couple of games he didn't play this year, God, you looked ordinary in those games.
Because he's great for that clean-up work around the middle. And as I said, he makes his tackles. He rarely misses one. Yeah. He's a goer. And, he just offers nothing in attack.
Well, it's hard to... Because you've already got a guy like Elliot Whitehead on an edge that can do that kind of... I know he's not in the middle, but he's that kind of rough, clean-up stuff. You've got guys like Tarpany in the middle. He's not a kind of forward that's just good in attack. He does enough really good defence as well. You know what I'm saying? Usually you would get a battler 13 when you're trying to compensate for poor defenders elsewhere in your pack. And I just don't think you have poor defenders in your pack. I think they're all bloody good in attack and defence. And so with Smithies, I just wonder where you fit him long term with Horsburgh being fit.
He's averaging 64 minutes per game as a middle forward, and he's averaging...
And you know what? Those minutes are down because whenever you get blown out, Ricky Stewart doesn't put him back on the field.
Yeah, and he's averaging 97 run metres per game, which it's not terrible, but for a 65-minute forward, less than 100 metres, in the middle...
I think also, I hate to harp on it, but just around the 9, Danny Levi, he's had a good year for him, but I just don't know, If he was an out and out one of the best defensive nines in the competition, I could understand. Or if he's an out and out just a freaking attack, I just don't know. He's another guy where does he offer enough in attack or defence?
Danny Levi's been good for what was expected of Danny Levi. I think he's actually offered a bit in attack. His support play is tremendous. Every time we make a bust, Danny Levi's the first bloke there. But when you look at him as, I know he actually came off the bench in this one, but as a starting number 9 in the NRL compared to the rest of the competition, and I know not everyone in the game can have an elite number 9, but it's not like we've got stars at 1, 6 or 7, so like we save a bit of cash with a bit of a lower tier number 9.
Yeah, I just think that, and they've got a young fella, didn't they? You said the other day, Guru?
Yeah, Owen Paddy, who I'm not sure if he's fallen off the side of the earth, but I haven't seen him. He must be. I assume he must be injured. But he's one that I really
No, he's
like.
been playing Cup. Because remember last year you said he didn't play Flegg and he dropped out. He's been playing Cup, so he played 27 minutes off the bench on the weekend.
Some positives. That Hudson Young try, I know he ended up passing it. Not try, but nearly a try. Just when he just decided to go, you know what, I'm going to nearly try to score here. He just goes bang, left foot, fan right foot. Jeez, his ability to just turn it on when he needs to, it's incredible. I know he passed it in the end. He could have fallen over the line. But yeah, just one of those weeks where the one strength that you have, which is aggression and the forward pack, or just aggression across the board, I just felt you really lacked. And to me, it looks like a team that is just fatigued, tired. I don't see them, these kind of group of players under Ricky Stewart, I don't see them coming out and doing that just because they couldn't be fucked. The only time I see guys that, you know, Ricky Stewart only signs a certain type of player. The reason why I would see this happening is because they are just flat from a big start to the season.
Even on Morgan Smithy, I'm like, I don't think he's done anything less than what he's really signed to do. Come in and be a battler and work his ass off.
Which he's done really well. Yeah.
He hasn't done anything wrong. It's just...
And you can afford, as I said, you can afford to have guys like that. It all really relies on your spine, to be honest. A lot of these conversations we're having would be different if you had...
Morgan Smithy's starting 13 at the Melbourne Storm with their spark and points in their spine. Sweet, he does a perfect job, but doesn't kind of.
But with Sanders arriving, Fogarty back from injury, Chevy Stewart at 1, things are different.
Yeah.
Things are very different. So hopefully they can turn it around, but very disappointing afternoon for the Raiders.